This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs the Playbook, and I am very excited. I have a dear friend of mine, and she's an incredible vision expert, an author, a motivational speaker, someone who you really want to get to know, especially in these times, because she has persevered through so much, being able to smile through the struggles and come out the other side to help others. You know, I read something today, Carey Conley. Thank you for joining me for the playbook,
Thanks
by
for
the way.
having me.
Amazing. The great Carey Conley. I was reading something today that one of the benefits of being a patient is then becoming the physician.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I thought of you
Wow.
as someone who learned and grew, and took those lessons as a patient, and now is such an extraordinary physician trying to help people get through those struggles, etc. Why don't you just start? Because I know you had such an amazing story that really transformed you. Let's share that story with everyone, because it's one that I'm on a mission, and you are, to make people happy. It's the
Sure.
greatest virus. It's the only virus that spreads by witnessing it. And you have seen people that could not get a grip or perspective on happiness, that actually can cause our own existence. And so, if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing the background of your great loss and your great struggle with us.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me, Dave. It's good to see you again.
Great to see you.
So I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time, almost 27 years. Married my high school sweetheart, raised two amazing kids in Colorado, and I live in Arizona now. I started speaking and coaching on vision about 8 years ago, because a big part of my role as a leader in my business is to tell people why it's so critical. They are very, very clear on their vision for their life. I wrote my first vision down when I was 26 years old on legal pieces of paper, way before iPads and all of that.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
with you.
and I was so clear, Dave, on what I believed was my role in life and who I wanted to become, and all of my core values, that I believe what happened that day is I got really anchored in the universe, and God was revealing to me what he wanted me to do for the rest of my life. So I've been very, very blessed that I took the time many years ago to do that. And so I've helped a lot of people now write their own visions for multiple reasons, whether it's for their life or for their business. Not knowing that was really rooted in that was then 6 years ago now, almost, losing my husband to suicide in 2014. And then 3 years later, losing my son, my 25-year-old son, also to suicide. So it became more of a mission than a job, because what I see right now, especially today in what we're sitting in, is so many people are losing their vision and they're losing hope. And that scares me a lot. So I am really 10Xing this whole mission of talking to people about why now, when they are wanting to do anything but write a vision because they think that so much is out of their control, that now could not be a better time to sit down and really look to the future and write out a big, beautiful vision you have for your life.
And one of the lessons that you learned through there is that I call you one of my myth of Sisyphus friends. And it's that you're so positive, and yet your journey, you would wake up and work all day to be positive,
Mm-hmm.
all the way till the end of the night. And you'd actually feel good before you went to bed, because you worked on your mindset, your vision, your perspective, all the great things that you teach and that we want to share with people about happiness. But something happened, from the time you went to bed till the time you woke up, the ball rolled all the way back down, and you started over every single day.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid when uncertain times are compressed, I always say that the future always has uncertainty, and
Yes.
that's what causes anxiety.
Yes.
And that's what reveals our ego-based emotion, the fear to be, that literally that we're separate, that we're inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, etc.
Yeah.
What did you do to transform that missing period where you could elevate yourself through your mindset, and then continue to elevate yourself the next day to the next day, and at least incrementally grow through, which, comparatively must have been an exacerbated uncertain time for you, and many questions were probably going through your head of why, what, how, and when am I going to do anything,
Yeah.
with such a tragic, with your husband, and then right back into that, one of the biggest fears that most people have in their life is to lose a child. So
Yes.
how did you overcome and smile through that struggle?
Well, you have to know that I'm human. Of course, I took some time off, especially after my son died. Kind of went underground, as I said, for almost a year. I still had clients that I was working with, and I kept working with them because I am that person that I stay in the game for the people that I serve, and could not let that go because it fueled me. Um, but I also started going inward. So people in situations, no matter what I went through or what we're going through right now, they do it in a lot of different ways. Some people need to be in big groups. They need to go through support groups. They need to go into counseling. I went inward. I started doing more journaling, more devotional reading, more listening to people like you and several other spiritual leaders, and they started showing up in my life. Talk about manifestation. Like you.
Mhm.
I just started seeking answers, and the people who could see beyond where I was right now started showing up and telling me what was really happening and could connect me um, to seeing the other side and seeing the bigger perspective of what's going on. And it gave me a whole lot of peace. And the biggest thing, the messages that they kept saying was that this has a bigger purpose, and that for some reason it's to come through me and people like you to keep carrying on the mission. So for me to stop would be selfish because it's not about me. So it's what keeps me going. Also, what keeps me going is something you said to me several months ago when you said, when I said to you, Dave, I've got to wake up every morning and get back up. Because the first thought I have is, okay, this is my life. This is what happened. They're not here. And you said to me, Carey, the first action of the day is the only action of the day. Everything else after that is a reaction to that action. You have to know I've taught that to thousands of people now.
That makes me feel good.
Yes, because it's so true. I have a choice from the moment I open my eyes as to how I'm going to respond to the day and how to use my emotions for good and not let them shut me down. I don't see the purpose in me having a pity party and wallowing in something I cannot change.
Yeah. And, there's three things on the vision as a vision expert that I talk about. You say, you're concerned about the lack of hope.
Yes.
I start with health, happiness, and then hope. And those three H's, you can almost divide out onto my vision board right now that, most people have a problem with the what. It's not our whys. It's even not the hows.
Yes.
Everything's already there. You just have to connect the dots backwards. But for some reason, it's resistance, especially in uncertain times, compressed uncertain times, to think about the what am I going to do? Like, what do I want for my health? What do I want for my happiness? And what do I want for my hope?
Mhm.
Um, Give us some lessons you learned or advice that you have for each of those three things, if you wouldn't mind, and how to pragmatically and practically practice that. Because all three of those, health is a practice, happiness is a practice, and so is hope.
Yes. So I have an exercise that I've done with a lot of people. It's a very simple exercise. A 5-year-old can do it.
That
Um,
means I can do it.
um, I've thought about making it more complicated, Dave, as I've evolved, but I always go back to it because it's simple. I did it actually with your team when I came and taught there a couple months ago.
And they loved it.
Yeah, thank you. They were great. I love working with young adults. Love it. Just makes my heart expand. Um, Here's what I've taught people to do is to put a target date on a piece of paper, just at the top, write it as is it 3 years from today. Put the date down, and then next put how old you will be on that day, how old your loved ones will be, your kids, your grandkids, your parents, grandparents, anybody who's involved in your life. The reason I have people do that is because time and aging are non-negotiable. You and I only have 24 hours in a day, and God willing, if we decided to show up here, we'd be 3 years older, 3 years from today. And the reason I do that is because I then ask people to write a vision on paper as if it's already 3 years out in the categories you just mentioned. So let's first talk about your faith life and whatever that means to you, how you serve in your spirituality, maybe in your community. Second area is in your fitness and health, because we all have those goals, whether it's you just want to be able to stretch for 5 minutes every day or run a marathon, it doesn't matter, it's yours. But the last one around happiness has a lot to do with, I think, not about the things that you want. It's interesting when I look at my vision that I wrote when I was 26. It wasn't about the material things that I wanted to gain. It was mostly who I wanted to become and the core values that I had. And those are the things that make me happy. Because the other things, like now, can go away like that. I know that you have gained and lost a lot, and so have I. And you just, when that happens, you don't attach yourself to anything other than how can I make myself and other people happy right now.
Interesting when you talk about building these vision boards
Yep.
and what we're looking at, what we want, and providing attention to it. But you're also really keen on giving intention to what you're paying attention to.
Yes.
I call it the aggregate of what we think, say, do, believe, and understanding even furthermore an unconscious competency that we have. Our, if we look at our personality traits, our characteristics, our obsessions and addictions that we've inherited from generations or even lifetimes, if you believe in that, like I do, our perspective changes. But the one thing that really resonated when you said, when I was 26, this is what I put in, more about what I wanted to be. It's so interesting. I'm 52 years old, and so many people my age don't understand how important it is that, at 52, it's, 26, you're 26 years from me. Now I'm 78. That's below the average of what people. I'm above average. I'm extraordinary. I'm going to live to over 111. So that means I would have to do a second at 78, my next vision board, to see that advancement.
Yeah.
But people just stop.
They do stop.
It's money stops, hope stops, help stops. I think there's going to be two kinds of people that come out of this. There's going to be really rich, healthy, hopeful people, and really poor, unhealthy, if not dead people.
Yeah.
Like literally, because I see people going two ways. They're eating a ton. I'm depressed. I'm crying all day. I'm listening to the news all day, and I'm spiraling. I've lost my job, blah, 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 blah. And then I see these other people going, oh my God, I don't have time to talk to you, Carey. Oh, there's so much opportunity. I got to get my workout in. How can we bring a sense of, I have a thing, if I'm not going to do something I can't do every day. So for me, my adaptable routine, since I'm on the road 200 days a year, my adaptable routine kicked right in, and I'm just progressing and accelerating and growing. But how do we get more people into what they can do every day so that they're not on this side of the fence or not on this side of the fence?
I think for a lot of people right now, it's baby steps. If I can get them to just entertain the idea just a little bit that writing something down on paper is just a good start. The how comes after that. I've told many, many people who get really tripped up with I can't write my vision until I know what the game plan is. And I tell people, I didn't know what the game plan is when I wrote my first vision. I just wrote what I wanted, and it started showing up. So we have
Proctor.
What's that?
That's Bob Proctor.
Yes, it started manifesting. I wrote that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom with a business that I could grow from home. Had no idea what that was going to be, but it showed up 2 years later when my son was 2 and I was 5 months pregnant with my daughter. It just happened the way it was supposed to happen in the right time because I asked for it. And that's just the baby step, is people just have to be willing, even if they can't even believe just yet, if they can just start asking, start believing just a little bit, because that's new. And I think beyond that, Dave, is people have to realize that it's so not about you. Giving up is not about you. What kept me going the whole time I was building my first business, when I was raising my kids on the days that I wanted to quit so bad, was their 2 little faces watching me. Because if I quit, I would have given them the license to then quit one day. Yeah. And I just didn't want to be responsible for that.
No, and pursuing consistent every day, persistent without quit, pursuing your potential is my definition of happiness. Happiness being the greatest disease of all time, the only one that spreads by witnessing it. And I'll keep on repeating it until people listen and hear me. That happiness is the greatest disease of all time. It spreads by witnessing it. No other disease spreads just by witnessing. So let's spread that. Now, one of the things that you touched upon is options.
Right.
And, as we manifest, I think the manifestation process in a pragmatic sense, that I put out three kind of options, and that allows me to, I think, transcode an ethereal higher vibration down to a materialization. And that's what manifestation is taking our ideas and making them real
Yes.
in our own perspective, what's real. Uh, what helps me is to give different options. I think more than ever, those baby steps can be facilitated by talking about conservative option, moderate option, and
Mhm.
aggressive option,
Right.
and allowing our brain and our body and our soul to kind of mend itself and saying, okay, some people call it framing, right? They'll frame it out. Worst case scenario is this. I like the option. It's a more positive approach.
Love it.
How can people approach their vision and still have a pragmatic tie-in to
Yeah.
it? So it's not just, John Asseroff put his house in Del Mar up there, and years later he lived in the exact same house that he cut and pasted onto his board. I get it. And John is a great friend. And just so I can give a plug real fast, the greatest lesson John Asseroff has given me is the law of Goya, which is get off your ass. And there's no better time to get off your ass than now. So everybody, institute John Asseroff's law of Goya if you're going to learn anything from Carey. But more importantly, how can we institute the pragmatic sense of this blending of options into the
You know
ethereal
what's so great
vision?
about the time that we're living in, Dave, is that there is no excuses for taking a baby step. Because right now you can Google anything and find a pragmatic step, a doable next step. That doesn't take a lot of time, that doesn't take a lot of money. It's just a step. So, for example, if somebody has said, I've always had a vision that I was going to be in real estate, instead of thinking now, okay, well, that means I'm going to have to quit my job and I'm going to have to go to school, right? Now it's just a matter of, can you Google that and find an online course and teach, go through it. It's just so, there's no reason for the excuses because it's all right there. And it doesn't have to be a life altering, expensive choice. It's
That's
just,
all.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's so true. And that projection of perception is so important in the materialization of our perspective.
Right.
Last question. Both of us, as you said, we've learned tremendous lessons because we've smiled through struggles and what other people would call losses or mistakes or
Yeah.
whatever they call it. I think they're lessons. Uh,
Yes.
Financially, I've created some unbelievable lessons in my life, all to people asking me, what have I learned? And it's radical humility. And for me, that's what I've learned, and it's never been tested as much as it is right now.
No.
It started in '97, it went to 2001, it then went to 2008 when I lost everything, and been still a daily practice of understanding my own humility. You've learned and suffered, the greatest losses, and for me, my greatest fear. It's the one that I still practice ending. When I think about how much I've accelerated and grown as a human being, when I think about those types of losses that you have learned from,
Mhm.
I get choked up. I still am human. I can tell you I'm a fearful human being, that I live in ego-based consciousness every day, but I do find the highest frequency in the morning. I would love for you to help me and others listening, what lesson you've taken away from that struggle.
I think it's that we all have something we're dealing with. Before this happened, my family was so blessed, Dave, and we still are. We lived in a beautiful neighborhood. We were very strong together, very close, a very close family, and just had an amazing life. And because we were in that bubble, we weren't really aware of other people's stories and how much other people were struggling until we went through this. And now my daughter and I have become very aware, because so many people, when this happened to us, it kind of opened up a door for people to start coming to us and telling us their stories. And so what it did for me, the lesson we wrote a book that we published last year called Keep Looking Up. And it's a book of the lessons we've learned, the 11 lessons that we have learned in the journey. And one of the biggest lessons was that nobody is immune from adversity, whatever it is. We are all in this together, especially right now. It's kind of leveled the playing field, because we're all susceptible to what's going on. So I think the biggest lesson we've learned is, like you just said, to stay very, very humble. You just never know what people are dealing with.
Well, I love that. And the one day of my life, the only day of my life, I couldn't get out of bed and fought the struggle. And I somehow Rocky came on, and I remember telling myself, if I can look up, I can get up.
Yep.
If I look up, I can get up. And I am so grateful that you've been on here to help inspire other people to look up and get up during these uncertain times. I respect and suggest everybody go out and get that book, because it is extraordinary. And please share your content, share your good ideas and good deeds and your vision to help others and impact others to have their vision. I am so grateful. This is Carey Conley, extraordinary motivational speaker, author, and dear friend, with Dave Meltzer, Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.